Welcome to today's explainer for our digital marketing course. Now, I know looking at this title, Ethics, Trust, and Privacy Governance, you're probably thinking, oh, great, a super dry legal compliance lecture. But honestly, it's literally the exact opposite. We're talking about the absolute foundation of modern brand-consumer relationships here. Okay, let's dive into this and transition our mindset from boring legal compliance to dynamic, high-performing digital strategy. So there's this massive elephant in the room for our industry right now. Is the era of third-party tracking officially dead? Now, you all actually bring a really fantastic dual perspective to this class, right? Because on one hand, as adult consumers, you know exactly what it feels like to be chased around the internet by some creepy, ultra-specific ad for a pair of shoes you looked at literally once. You hate it. We all do. But on the flip side, as future marketers and strategists, you also know that data is the lifeblood of our campaigns. I mean, we need data to survive. So how do we navigate a world where the old way of tracking is just collapsing? To figure that out, here is our roadmap for today. We'll be covering Section 1, the privacy paradigm shift. Section 2, trust as competitive advantage. Section 3, the 4 ethical pillars. Section 4, the data value exchange. And finally, Section 5, designing for transparency. Starting us off with Section 1, the privacy paradigm shift and our industry's necessary move away from cookies. If you've spent, any time online recently, you've definitely seen tighter privacy regulations sweeping the internet. Things like GDPR, CCPA, or those huge Apple iOS tracking updates demanding your consent at every single turn. For us, this means the old way is dying. That old way? It was basically the Wild West of third-party tracking. The main goal was usually just scooping up as much behavioral data as possible across different websites, all while trying to dodge compliance fines. But tighter regulations and the death of third-party cookies mean we're forced to pivot to first-party data strategies. This is the new way. And this brilliantly illustrates the strategic shift to first-party data. This is data your audience gives directly to you, and it relies entirely on building real, ethical relationships. You can't just take it anymore. You have to actually earn it. Moving on to Section 2, trust as competitive advantage. And this is really about moving far beyond mere compliance. I really want you to stop thinking of ethics as just some annoying checkbox for the legal department. We're actually seeing a massive shift in consumer behavior, and it's perfectly represented by this single powerful number, 75%. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is that whenever we see a majority this significant, it means we need to stop everything and pay close attention. So, what do you think this 75% represents in the context of privacy and marketing? Well, here's the full quote from our source material. 75% of consumers are more likely to buy from brands delivering personalized content within a transparent, trust-centered framework. Seriously, this is a massive revelation. It proves that ethical marketing directly drives revenue. Consumers aren't inherently opposed to personalization, right? They still want relevant content. But they are actively choosing to spend their hard-earned money with brands that actually respect their boundaries and operate transparently. Trust is literally driving the bottom line here.
That brings us to Section 3, the 4 ethical pillars, the framework for trust.
Think of this as the definitive solution to the cookie crisis. It's the absolute foundation you're going to use to build strong brand-consumer relationships. These are the 4 pillars you really need to memorize: privacy, transparency, truthfulness, and fairness. And look, these aren't just corporate buzzwords. They're a structural blueprint. Privacy means fiercely protecting the data you collect with proper security. Transparency means writing your privacy policies in plain English, not confusing legalese, so people actually know what you're doing. Truthfulness, that means no hidden clauses or misleading claims when you gather data. And fairness means making sure the consumer actually gets something worthwhile out of the interaction, rather than just being exploited. If your upcoming campaigns rest on these 4 pillars, consumers will genuinely feel safe interacting with your brand. Next up is Section 4, the data value exchange, shifting from extraction to exchange. That concept of fairness leads us right into this. So the crucial point is, compliance is not just avoiding fines, it's creating a mutual value exchange. If you're treating privacy regulations just as an obstacle course to avoid getting penalized, well, you're missing out on a massive opportunity to build deep customer loyalty. You shouldn't be trying to figure out the bare minimum you have to do to be legally compliant. Actually, scratch that. It's more like you should be asking yourself, how can I make the exchange of data so valuable to the consumer that they actually want to share it with me? And here's how this builds into a practical two-way street. Step 1, brands provide a better, safer experience. Step 2, consumers feel safe sharing their information. It's this beautiful virtuous cycle. When you use that first-party data to genuinely improve the user's experience, maybe through a highly relevant discount, a personalized recommendation that actually makes sense, or maybe some exclusive piece of content, the consumer realizes that sharing their information with you was actually a really good idea. They feel secure, they see the value, and they willingly hand over that highly accurate first-party data that is just so vital to your success. Which leads us to our final section, Section 5, Designing for Transparency, Putting Ethics into Action. As you all prepare to design your own ad tech strategies later in this course, you basically have to choose between two paths. Over on one side, you've got dark patterns. These are those manipulative design tactics built into websites and apps. Think of, hiding the opt-out button in tiny gray text, or creating a crazy maze of confusing privacy settings, or using trick questions to force consent. It's that old extractive mindset. On the other side is transparent design. This is design that explicitly respects consumer autonomy and data ownership. It makes it super easy for the user to understand what's happening and just as easy for them to say no. As you critique current ad tech and build your own alternatives, transparent design is your goal for sure. You want to empower the user, not trick them. And that brings us to a question I really want you to carry with you throughout the rest of your marketing careers. Are you building trust, or are you just extracting data? The wild west of third-party tracking is closing its doors for good. As we've seen today, the future belongs to strategists who consciously choose ethical, transparent relationships. The data you need is definitely out there, but you have to earn it by delivering real value and respecting your consumers' autonomy. So think about how you'll answer this question in your next campaign design. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and I'll catch you in the next one.